With each day, a new beginning, another opportunity to become all you are created to be. There is a way. And now our host, the Reverend Dale Batesole, invites you to join him in making this the best day of your life.
Hello, friends. The Bible says, in the days of prosperity, be joyful. But what type of prosperity did this statement infer? Well, our guest will define prosperity and tell us how we can obtain its real treasure. We have with us today Dr. Gregory Penn, author of 2 books, Freedom, The Essence of Life, and Reincarnation, The Same Old Brand New You. Dr. Penn is the minister of Unity of Escondido in Escondido, California. Greg, welcome back.
It's an honor to be here with you, Dale, as it always is.
Let's get into our
Yes.
subject. How do you define prosperity?
I define it a little bit different than some people do, simply for the fact that I don't like the idea of limiting prosperity to money. Prosperity is a state of being. Now, that doesn't mean much to a person who's just listening to that for the first time, but let me kind of define that. Prosperity is a sense of peace in the heart of us, where we don't look to the exterior world for our ins, our outs, our ups, our downs, our good, our bad. We look within ourselves and we are at peace with the source within. We don't wonder how things are going to work out, if they're going to work out. We remain at peace within. There have been many people who have been spiritual masters who have touched this. The problem with us as Westerners trying to understand prosperity is that we equate it with money. And prosperity is such a small part of that.
You mean money is such a small part of prosperity?
Yes. Money equates to 1 fraction of what real prosperity is. In fact, money is only a small manifestation. And here's where we have a problem. We want prosperity, and we think instantly prosperity means money, and it doesn't. What we really are asking for is a manifestation in our life. And when one obtains a true sense of inner prosperity, at peace with the source, which is God, which is infinite good, there's no need to ask. The Father knows of our needs before we ask. We remain at peace, and if there is something in our physical life that needs tending to, true prosperity draws to us those things and conditions that we need. I would like to give another definition to prosperity. It's called manifestation. And we're going to put this on the screen for our viewers at home. This is something that I wrote. To bring into form the invisible energies and potentials of the universe. The quantities and the qualities of these forms is in direct correlation to our chosen level of self-love. Now, we got to think about that for a moment and realize it. Manifestation of anything in life, if we need finances, prosperity would be having good health.
Yes.
Prosperity would be having finances when we needed them. Prosperity would be having someone to love. Anything that brings about a sense of happiness, peace, fulfillment, learning lessons. Now, these are forms of creative life that is a universal quality, God. The quantities and the qualities of good that come into my life are a direct indication of how well I have learned as Gregory Penn and as our viewers at home to love myself as a spiritual being, to awaken as a spiritual being. Not to love myself egotistically, not to love myself in a physical way, but to love myself as an eternal spiritual being. Now that is the key to prosperity, the ultimate key.
Okay. Now let's relate that, if you will, to what you said a little earlier.
Okay.
Finding that peace and complete comfort and understanding within myself.
Right. The peace that is prosperity is just a simple little phrase that Jesus gave to us, and it's beautiful. I and the Father are one. Just that simple. Jesus never worried about whether he had a few bucks to buy some fish. Whenever there was a problem, whenever there was a need in his life, when Peter came running to him and said, we have to pay the taxes, he didn't look in his pocket. He didn't say what's in the temple treasury. He always referred to the greater source within him. He had the perfect prosperity. But that prosperity was not limited to money. No. And we must never limit prosperity to money. The moment we do, we have really, really limited the power of our productivity.
Mhm. We've short-circuited the flow of energy.
Most definitely.
Yes.
And you see, manifestation, all manifestations are in direct correlation to my level of self-love. The quantities and the qualities of the things, Dale, that come into my life and go, whether they be good or bad, are manifestations of my chosen level of prosperity. And if things come to me in ways that are difficult or uncomfortable, it's because I am not loving myself. I am not seeing myself as an expression of the infinite good that is God. When I am learning to see myself as an expression of God, all of a sudden now, I begin to have what I call self-appreciation or esteem in God. I begin to see Jesus was right. All great teachers were right when they said we were the expression of God, the image, the likeness of God.
Yes.
That is the truest point of self-love. And of course, that brings us the most beautiful rewards.
Of course. If you will now, let's go back to money as a symbol of prosperity.
Fine.
Now, let's talk about that just a little bit more. Now, we need money.
Yes.
It's the medium of exchange.
Yes.
When I think of amounts of money, I oftentimes think in terms of whether I'm prosperous or whether I'm not. Great amounts, I'm prosperous. Small amount, I'm not prosperous.
Well, that's what I've done the same thing in my life too, and we've been very wrong, Dale. Both of us have been very wrong. There are many people who have great sums of money who are very poor people.
Yes,
okay?
I understand.
It really isn't the amount of money you have. It is the heart behind yourself, the inner awareness you have. Let me use an example, biblical one, if I may, just for a moment. If you remember the story of the little widow that went into the church treasury. All the rich people were coming in, putting in lots of money, and everybody's very impressed with that. And the little widow comes in, and Jesus and the disciples are watching that. And I'm sure the disciples were going, look at all that great money. Boy, what we could do with all that money. The little widow comes in and puts in a penny, and no one said a word about her. But Jesus pops up and says, I'll tell you something. She has given more than they all. Now, I'm sure the disciples thought their master had gone crazy. But what he was saying is this: she gave her all. She gave everything she had. The rich people gave small amounts of the wealth that they had, which meant nothing. And what he was saying is the penny was a symbol of her love, her self-esteem, her love, saying, I can freely give this because I know it comes back to me as I learn to love myself. She was not attached to the money as identity for whether she was rich or poor, prosperous or impoverished. All right, and that's what Dale and Greg must do with their life, and our viewers must do. It's not the money you have, it's how much love of self do you have. And as you pay your bills, instead of saying, oh, I am depleted, you must look at it as I am empowered to give you this money, and it will now have the opportunity to take a blessing and pay someone else and pay someone else and pay someone else, and the money will flourish around, and all of a sudden now you become a tree of great fruit.
Yes.
And your branches now are shading the birds, giving fruit to those who are hungry, and now you begin to see the scheme of life. You can have more because your heart now says, we can accept more.
Yes.
Not just more money, but more of me. I, you. We are spiritual beings. We can't accept that too well. You, no matter what you've done, ladies and gentlemen, no matter how bad you may think it's been, you are the image and likeness of God, and you have the right to be healthy and happy and prosperous. That's a love that is very difficult sometimes for us to accept.
It is. It's true.
Because it's based on no human rationale or reason. And remember, God doesn't work on human rationale or reason or human justice. God works on the law of love. And the law of love is very tolerant and yet very demanding. It demands that we recognize it, but it's tolerant with our learning about it.
Yes.
We can make mistakes and
Of course.
prosper.
Yes, of course. But love never rejects us.
Never. It empowers us.
Yes. Well, how does money play a part in our lives in other ways?
Very small ways. Really, money is not the issue of life. I know that we all think about it so much because, like you said earlier, it is the medium of exchange. But it really plays a very small part. What really plays a bigger part, is what's behind the money, in my motive. Murphy, in Murphy's Laws,
Yes.
gave the best definition of money in a way. He said, if a man tells you it's the principle of the thing and not the money, I'll lay you 9 to 1, it's the money. And what he was saying is very true. It's the motive behind everything that makes the money flow or stops it. It's the motive behind what I think and feel that either causes my health to increase or diminish. It is my inner heart, my inner self. And if I've allowed my heart to get cynical, if I've allowed my heart to get rigid, if I've allowed my heart to get angry, no matter how much money and power I wield in the world, I will limit my income, I will limit my health, I will limit the people around me that could help me, that could love me. And I can't love myself either when I'm in that frame of mind. When I am cynical, when people listen to this program and listen to it maybe with hardness of heart or cynicism, there's nothing that can be done for that. They have to learn to trust their heart, not to trust you and me, but to trust their heart in understanding that what we say already lives within them.
Yes.
They know these truths. Our friends out there know everything that we talk about.
Yes.
It's deep in here. And our job, you and I, are just to sit here and remind them of their heart. Go back to that. I wish, Dale, that our viewing audience would just forget about money for a while and work on the idea, the correlation of manifestation. That my life is to bring those invisible qualities that are potentials in life, and to understand that the quantity and the quality of what comes to me in life is only in direct correlation with what I choose to love myself with. If I will learn, as Gregory Penn, just to love me as a spiritual being, the money, the health, the love, the people that could be a blessing to me will all flock towards me, and I will never ask. I will never have to say I have to go look for someone. I won't say I have to go out and get a loan. It will all come to me because I am right on the inside. When I'm right on the inside, my world correlates to my rightness. When I'm wrong on the inside, my world becomes chaotic and is in direct accord with the chaos that I am incurring within my heart. A person can think right, but be motivated wrong and still have bad results. And this is where you can't doctor it up. You can't put a Band-Aid on you.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to go to the source of the problem, and it's in here. If I'm cynical, if I will not give, if I'm fearful, if I'm angry, if I'm hostile, no matter how much positive thinking I do, it's for naught. Until I get my heart squared away.
As a man thinketh in
his heart, so is he. When the heart's squared away, the life becomes abundant. Abundant.
Okay.
It's awesome.
We talk about love many times as the magnetic force that attracts to us our good.
Yeah.
All right. This is what you're saying.
Uh-huh.
All right. And when you speak of self-love, I want to come back to this
Yes.
so that our viewers will understand exactly what we mean. We mean the love of the true spiritual self of us.
Yes, the one that never dies, the eternal self of us, which is God in us, and when it is achieved, it's called Christ, and in the East, it was called Buddha. It was called Buddha, which is the same word as Christ in their vernacular. We achieve Christ consciousness. And if you can love that part of you more than you love your physical side that needs money and food and clothes, you'll touch the eternal side. And then when Jesus said, everything that you need and want's already taken care of for you, why do you toil? Why do you spin? The lilies of the field are more prosperous than you because they know themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They know they're a flower, and they don't want to be a rose. They're happy to be a lily.
Yes. Okay, it's time for our break.
Okay.
This is great. This message is vitally important to our program, dear friends. Therefore, we trust it is important to you. Well, Dr. Penn is discussing the subject that many of you write to us about, the subject of prosperity. Greg, what is true worth or true value?
True value is us as a spiritual being. And we must begin to see ourselves not in the value of what we can do in the physical, but what we are in the spiritual. I can do many things in the physical, but never enough to compensate for the needs that my body has. I could work all of my life being a carpenter, a lawyer, a minister, and it would never be enough. But the value that lives within me far supersedes my physical needs. And if I will bring that value out, I will be abundant. I like to look at me and people, our spiritual self, as a seed. What is a seed's purpose? But to die to itself. And when it dies, it brings forth life.
That's manifestation.
Right.
Okay.
There was a king. I'm going to give you a quick story. There was a king who had 3 sons. And he was trying to figure out which son, Dale, would be the best one to inherit his kingdom. So he went to his advisor, and the advisor said to him, find out which one is the wisest. That will be the best king. Mm-hmm. So he gives each son a seed. And he said, I want you to take this seed and I want you to preserve it. I'm going away for a year. When I come back, I want you to show me the seed, to preserve it. The first son said, okay, this is very important. What I'm going to do with this seed is I'm going to put it in a safe. And he shut the safe and locked it, kept the key around his neck. Okay, the second son said, well, gee, if I do what my elder brother did, I will leave the seed in the safe. It will rot because there's no air, no sun. It will just rot. Mm-hmm. So he said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell my seed, and then when my father comes back, I'll buy it back from someone else. It'll be a fresh seed. Mm-hmm. The third son said, well, that's manipulating. You see, the first son was wrong because he tried to hoard what he had. The second son tried to manipulate what he had and didn't gain any more. But the third son, the son who was the wisest and who the father chose, he took his seed and he put it in the ground, and it died and brought forth flowers. And the king came back and said the first son was stupid because he killed the seed. The second son he was very disgruntled with because he wasn't honest. Mm-hmm. What he did is he manipulated the seed. But the third son was the wisest. He planted the seed. It bore many flowers, and in the flowers were what?
Seeds.
More seeds.
Yes.
And he multiplied those seeds because he used it. And that's what we must do with our souls and with our spiritual self. We must use the seed of our being. Don't hoard your love. I hear people say, well, I'm saving my love. Mm-hmm. Well, who are you saving it for? Even that little clerk in the grocery store that treated you miserably needs your love, and you should look at that person and love them for where they are. Don't manipulate people. Don't manipulate yourself. Don't fool yourself like the second son tried to do. Be like the third son. Give your value to life. Give your value to life. Give of yourself constantly, your love, your forgiveness, your tolerance. Don't look at money as the medium of your life. Look at it as a tool, not the source. It is not your wealth. It is not your fulfillment. It's just a tool. It's just a small tool. And in the light of life, you can't take money with you when you go. And if there's anyone who can, I'd like to see them hover above their chairs at home. The truth of the matter is, you take with you what you are wherever you go. And that's your value in life, Dale.
Yes. Okay. Now then, how do we, first of all, determine what the treasure of life is, and then how do we get the treasure of life?
You determine what the treasure of life is by the thing that is going to be with you forever. I am going to be with me forever. You are going to always be with you forever. That is the treasure, okay? That's how you determine it. It is eternal. Things that are short-term are not treasures. My clothes are short-term. My money is short-term. But my soul is forever. It is wonderful. It is beautiful. That's how you distinguish what is valuable from what is not. Love is valuable. It is eternal. And it serves purposes in our life. Beautiful healing purposes. Therefore, it's an eternal value. So those are basically 2 values that are eternal besides God, okay? Now, the object is to start living those values. We live for a lot of false values, all of us. We strive every day for money. Most of our people right now are going to be leaving their house pretty soon to go out to work to earn another dollar. A new day, same problems, earning money. That's not the problem. I like what Gibran said about work and money. He said, if you don't love what you do, it would be better for you to go put on beggar's clothes and sit at the temple gate and watch those who do love their work to learn. In other words, am I betraying myself by going to an occupation or a job that I do not love, living a life that I do not love? If so, it's time for some reevaluation, and ask yourself, what is it about me that's afraid to change jobs? What is it about me that forces me to stay in this rut? And if it's fear of money, then you're a slave to money. Money's become your God, and it will take away your goodness. If you can say, I think there is more to me, and I would like to try to explore that more, then you would have the daring to reach out and try something maybe a little different in your life. But that all depends upon if I see value in me. That's why I said in our manifestation thing, it's all according to our chosen level of self-love. The qualities of good and the quantities of good come into our life depending upon how much of me I've discovered, how much of me I love.
Yes.
If I love me, it's because I've discovered more about me. I am more talented than what I thought I was.
All right, but let's go back now and make certain now. When you say me, you're meaning the true spiritual self.
Yes, the
not,
me
not
that,
this physical body.
right, the me that is behind my body.
Yeah.
Our viewers are only looking at a manifestation of my consciousness as Gregory Penn in a human male body.
Mm-hmm.
But behind my eyes, if you can look behind those blue eyes, there's more. There's much more, even more than I have known.
No.
And I'm learning more about it.
Which reminds me of a story I read recently of a little 5-year-old boy who was sitting depressed
Yeah.
in his front porch when they brought the little baby home from the hospital.
Yeah.
And the first thing the little 5-year-old heard was, "Oh, what beautiful blue eyes."
Yeah.
And the little 5-year-old went and looked in the mirror.
Yeah.
And he says, "I was first with blue eyes."
Isn't that typical?
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's typical of all of us,
It is.
I think.
It is.
All right. Greg, is it possible to have money, obtain money, and not be prosperous?
Oh, yes.
You referred to this earlier, but let's talk
The
about this.
poorest people I know, Dale, are the richest people I know. The people who have the most money are the most impoverished. And I'm going to tell you something. The people that I have known who have the least amount of money are the most prosperous. People who have money are always worried about keeping their money, how to spend their money, and how to use their money to gloat over other people, to show them their worth. This is a constant consuming problem in their life. Instead of them owning their money, the money owns them and makes them poor.
In spirit.
Well, poor in the sense, not as Jesus said, poor in spirit on the mount when he was speaking there, but poor in their soul. They feel that their whole value in life is wrapped up in what they do or do not have in the physical.
I see.
Whereas people who are middle of the road, people who have not put a lot of emphasis in money, but have put a lot of emphasis in happiness, in peace, in trying to find themselves, they're the rich ones in life. And they go on in life being abundant. And it's funny, they're the people who I have seen who things click for them. For instance, they have a harmonious marriage. They have a harmonious family. I mean, these are simple little examples. They have good health, and they're learning to become enlightened. And the money that they do have seems to serve a much greater purpose than those people who are owned by their money.
Yes.
They have what I call the beginning stages of peace, which is the ultimate state of prosperity, peace.
Let's go back, if we may, to manifestation.
Okay.
Before we close.
One
out
more
the-
look at it.
One more look.
Okay,
If
let's
we-
look at this manifestation. Again, to bring into form the invisible energies and potentials of the universe. The quantities and the qualities of these forms is in direct correlation to our chosen level of self-love. Love ourselves,
Our spiritual self.
right, are the quantities and the qualities of life from the invisible source, which is God, that we can't see, will come rushing into our life. All of life works around the love of our inner self. Not love of what we've done, but the love of what we have become.
God is love,
Right.
indwelling us. And in that love is the fulfillment of our every good desire. It's the source of peace. It's the source of fulfillment and satisfaction.
It is prosperity.
And this is prosperity.
This is the ultimate. So the world can come and go, but you will always be prosperous.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Greg,
Thank you, Dale.
for coming and sharing.
Thank you.
This has,
Bless
been,
you.
this has been a great experience. Friends, our guest today has been the Reverend Gregory Penn from the Unity of Escondido in Escondido, California. Will you affirm this with Gregory and with me? My greatest treasure in life is learning to love myself. My greatest treasure in life is learning to love myself. And when we use this word myself, we mean our true spiritual self. My greatest treasure in life is learning to love my spiritual self, the true essence of being in me. My greatest treasure in life is learning to love myself. Take this affirmation with you this day in your mind and in your heart, and learn like you've never learned before to love yourself as a spiritual being. We know that when we can share a message with you that will let you learn to love your true spiritual self, your challenges and your problems will dissipate and disappear. Thanks for being with us. Join us for our next program, will you? We'll be looking for you, and when you're not there, we miss you.